Well, what does that mean? That means the White House is going to do what, right?
Right. I mean,
if you were laying the foundation for an argument that Assad is the worst monster,
worse than Hitler, I guess, is
worse
the
than
argument.
Hitler, as they're saying,
right.
You better have a policy that flows from that. And as far as I can tell, their policy so far was to toss 59 missiles into an airstrip and nothing since then. So it doesn't seem to me that they actually have a policy that recognizes Assad as someone as evil as Hitler. And 11 days ago, Spicer was at that podium, and he said that it is U.S. policy to accept Assad as the president of Syria. So we've gone in 11 days from Assad, we are accepting Assad as president, to bombing him, to comparing him to Hitler.
In fairness, though, I think John Kerry maybe compared him to Hitler, and then Barack Obama didn't do anything. I think I remember that. It was a few years ago. But I think here's the problem with Sean Spicer. Chris Matthews made this exact same mistake in 2013, not that long ago, where he said even Hitler didn't use chemical weapons, and there was a huge scandal around it, which Sean Spicer apparently missed. I think when I heard it, I remembered that scandal. I think part of the problem is most people who become press secretaries. We had Ari Fleischer was here an hour ago, right? This is a guy who was spokesman for the House Ways and Means Committee. He was press secretary for a prominent U.S. senator. He was Elizabeth Dole's spokesperson on her presidential campaign. I think he was on George H.W. Bush's '92 campaign, and then he became on the campaign of George W. Bush before becoming George W. Bush's press secretary. Sean Spicer does not have that resume. This is a guy who was at the RNC. Don't get me wrong, it's a difficult job. I think he's really been thrown into the deep end here. I don't think he was prepared for the daily onslaught that he faces.
Well, also, it seems like a lot of the onslaught may come from his boss. You know, there's been a lot of articles about essentially his audience is an audience of one, which is President Trump, who's watching, apparently, according to reporting, makes time to watch these daily briefings.
I mean, he's obviously, there's a lot of pressure with that. But to be fair, I mean, I think a lot of people who haven't worked on the Hill and haven't had all those jobs actually know that they wouldn't have said what he said today about Hitler and Assad, making that comparison.
Right. Comparisons to Hitler never are a good idea.
But this one in particular, you know, saying even Hitler didn't, you know, I mean, it just isn't something you need to have worked on all those places to know not to say. And I'll posit a theory here. 22 hours ago, there was a story on Newsmax which the headline was "Assad is worse than Hitler," according to a man who survived a chemical attack in Syria. And I think we know that everyone in the White House looks at Newsmax. I mean, this is something that they look at, and somehow he must have seen this or heard it.
Which I believe actually came from an interview on Fox.
An interview from Fox, but which then just raises all sorts of questions still of why there isn't more of an understanding, historical understanding that that this probably isn't a great analogy, and then to bring in the chemical weapons aspect of it.
And it's just so jarring because throughout the entire campaign and up until this chemical gas attack by Assad, Trump's policy was essentially to accept Assad as a fact on the ground.
Right, there were repeated tweets when he was a citizen against President Obama.
Yeah, to argue that Assad is not the real problem in the region, it's ISIS, and we're going to go after ISIS, and if that makes us a tacit ally even of Assad, then so be it. So it's just so jarring that in a few days they've turned it around in this way.
Do you, I asked the question of Paul Begala whether he thought Sean Spicer was going to continue on.